Welcome to Christ's Word, where everyday lives meet the light of God's Word. Here, we don't preach. We tell stories. Moments of doubt, turning points, quiet revelations, all woven with raw emotion and unshakable faith. You're not just listening to someone else's journey. You might just find your own reflection in it. And maybe, just maybe, by the end, you'll discover the answer you've been searching for. There were no sirens. No blood. No dramatic courtroom shouting like in the movies. But that afternoon, as I sat before the judge holding a file stamped, confidential, I knew, my life would never be the same again. My name is Rachel. 29. Lawyer. A dream job. A downtown office with a skyline view. A diamond ring I never wore. People said I was successful. On the outside, I smiled. On the inside, I was rotting. I used to believe in justice. That the law was light in the darkness. That if we did the right thing, justice would always win. But slowly, I started to see, this system wasn't built to heal. It was built to cover up. Not to protect the weak, but to shield the powerful. Last week, I was assigned a case involving a major real estate corporation. A single mother accused them of evicting her and her son because they were lowering the neighborhood's value. I read her file. I saw the truth. But what kept me up at night wasn't her words, it was what my supervisor said. Don't stir this up. Just rewrite the brief the way the firm needs. It'll be handled quietly. Just ignore the truth. Just silence a mother's voice. Just lie. That night, I came home, turned off my phone, shut every light, and sat in the dark. I felt disgusted with myself. I had convinced myself that I could be flexible. That I could play by the rules without believing in them. But there comes a moment where you have to face the question no one escapes. Are you still yourself, if you keep doing what you know is wrong? I reached for my mother's old Bible. The one I hadn't touched in years. Its pages yellowed. Ink smudged with tears long dried. I opened it to Isaiah, not knowing why, and read. Woe to those who call evil good, and good evil. Isaiah 5 verse 20. I stopped. In that moment, something inside me cracked. I had called evil good. I had made excuses for my silence. I thought I was surviving. But really, I was dying, bit by bit, choice by choice. The next morning, I called the woman from the case. I said just one thing. Do you want real help? She paused. Then whispered. I don't know who you are. But I'll believe, just this once. From that moment on, I wasn't just a lawyer anymore. I became a target. They called me a traitor. Naive. Stupid for going against my own firm. But I learned something that mattered more than comfort, more than approval. When you refuse to compromise with what's wrong, you might lose everything, but you'll find yourself again. And if you think that's where the story ends, me doing the right thing, you're wrong. Because soon after, I was followed. I was threatened. And the worst thing happened. To the person I loved most. Do you think faith is just something to whisper during prayer? Do you think Jesus' teachings are only meant for Sundays? I thought so too. Until justice became my fight, and faith became my only shield. I had never felt a sunrise so cold. That morning, as I stepped outside my apartment, I found a piece of paper tucked into my doorframe. No words. Just a single red slash, drawn across the middle like a wound. Someone was warning me. I held it in my hand, crushed it tight, and whispered, not a polished prayer, just something raw, almost childlike. God, let me see the depth of your unchanging love. Because I'm scared. So scared. I still went to work. Still wore my gray blazer. Still smiled at the elevator mirror like I wasn't falling apart inside. But every time I caught my boss's eyes, it was like someone poured ice water into my chest. She knew. And she was waiting for me to break. But something began to shift. One of my coworkers, barely more than an acquaintance, lightly touched my shoulder in the break room. She leaned in and whispered, "I see you. And I think, you're doing the right thing." I didn't cry. Just nodded. But those words, in that moment, felt like a match striking inside a pitch-black cave. That night, I opened my Bible again. This time, it fell to Micah. "He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to love mercy. And to walk humbly with your God." Micah 6 verse 8. I read it over and over. Act justly. Love mercy. Walk humbly. No one said it would be easy. I rewrote the legal brief. No spin. No euphemisms. Just truth. Laid bare. I walked into her office. Placed it gently on her desk. Looked her straight in the eyes. 1 second. 2 seconds. "You do realize you're ending your career," she said flatly. I simply answered. "I have no future if I betray who I am." That afternoon, I left the office early. I walked along the river. Felt lighter. Then heavier. Then hollow. I stared at the water and wondered. Had I gone too far? Then my phone buzzed. An unknown number. One message. "Stop. Or next time, it won't be just you." I froze. My heart clamped tight. And for the first time through all of this, I didn't think about my safety. I thought about theirs. The ones I loved. The ones who had no say in this. What if they got hurt, because of me? God, start my day with courage. But end it with mercy. Because I don't know if I can do this alone. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound outside my window felt louder than it should have. Every car that slowed down near my building made my skin crawl. I kept checking the locks. Again. And again. It was irrational, I knew. But fear doesn't need logic to grow. I thought about calling someone. Maybe my sister. But what would I say? That I was in danger because I told the truth. That I did what was right and now someone might get hurt. I opened my Bible again, almost out of desperation. Not to find comfort, but clarity. I needed a reason to keep going. To not give in. I found myself in the Gospel of Luke. Chapter 12. Verse 4. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body and after that can do no more. But I will show you whom you should fear. My hands trembled. I didn't want to be brave. I wanted to be safe. But something in that verse stayed with me. It wasn't just about fear. It was about focus. I had spent so long worrying about what people could do to me. I'd forgotten what God could do through me. The next day, I walked into the office like nothing had changed. But everything had. My heart still pounded. My stomach churned. But my soul, somehow, was steady. When I opened my laptop, there was a new folder on my desktop. Labeled simply, Reconsider. I clicked it. Inside were 3 files. My resume. A drafted resignation letter. And a 6-figure settlement agreement. Pre-signed by the firm. It was all there. Neatly prepared. All I had to do was sign. One signature. Walk away. Keep quiet. Forget everything. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. I could almost feel the weight of the pen in my hand. I imagined myself stepping away, disappearing somewhere quiet, maybe even starting over. But then I remembered her. The woman from the case. Her son's eyes. The way she held his backpack like it was her last piece of dignity. And I heard this voice in my head, maybe it was memory, maybe it was God. But it whispered. If you walk away now, who will fight for them? I deleted the folder. The whole thing. No backup. No second thoughts. The silence in the room afterward was deafening. No applause. No angels descending. Just the quiet conviction that I had done what I could. And that had to be enough. At lunch, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. This time, I picked up. There was a pause. Then a man's voice, low and strained. You think this is noble, don't you? He didn't wait for me to answer. You're not helping anyone. You're putting people in danger. You want to be the hero? Fine. But don't say we didn't warn you. Click. The line went dead. I just sat there, phone still to my ear, listening to the absence of a voice. And then I did something I hadn't done since I was a little girl. I knelt. Right there, in the middle of my office. Door unlocked. Curtains open. And I prayed, not with eloquence. Not with perfect words. Just with my whole heart. Lord, if I fall, let me fall on you. If I'm alone, be near. If I'm wrong, correct me. But if I'm right, please, don't let me be silent. Tears came. Slow, quiet, unexpected. No one saw. Or maybe someone did. Later that evening, as I was packing up, my inbox dinged. A message. No subject. Just a link. I hesitated. Then clicked. It was footage. Grainy, but clear enough. A hidden camera. My boss, speaking with a man I'd never seen before. Discussing the case. Talking about how to neutralize my credibility. How to buy time. How to make it go away. The audio cut in and out, but the meaning was clear. They knew. They were scared. Not of me. Of the truth. I downloaded the file. Backed it up. Twice. I knew this wasn't over. Not even close. But for the first time in weeks. I didn't feel lost. I didn't feel powerless. I felt covered. Held. And even if I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, I knew I wasn't walking into it alone. Not anymore. Because justice doesn't start with laws. It starts with conviction. And mine was no longer negotiable. I couldn't keep the footage to myself. It was tempting to hold on to it, like a secret weapon. Wait for the perfect moment, the safest path. But that would have made me just like them. Calculating. Afraid. Silent. Instead, I sent it to the journalist who had first reached out months ago. I had ignored her back then. I wasn't ready. But now. I was. Her reply came an hour later. One word. Meeting. We sat in the corner of a coffee shop downtown. She wore a faded denim jacket, hair tied back in a messy knot, and eyes that didn't blink often. When I slid the flash drive across the table, she didn't smile. She just looked at me and said quietly, "You sure you want to do this?" I wasn't. Not completely. But I said, yes. And that was enough. When I walked back to my apartment that night, the city felt different. Like it was breathing with me. Still dark. Still heavy. But somehow, softer. I lit a candle. And I whispered again. God, thank you. Not for answers. But for the strength to ask the right questions. That night, I dreamed of my father. I hadn't seen his face in years. He was sitting at the old kitchen table, flipping through a yellowed Bible. When I asked what he was looking for, he said, "Courage, baby girl. Just trying to remember what it looks like. I woke up with tears on my pillow. There are things that prayers can't fix immediately. But they can hold you. Keep you from unraveling. The article came out 3 days later. Front page. My name wasn't in it. But the story was mine. The corruption, the manipulation, the threats, it was all there. And then the calls started. Not just from reporters. From people. Real people. One woman, a whistleblower from another firm. A young intern, fired for speaking up. Even a judge. Quietly. Carefully. All of them said the same thing. I thought I was the only one. That's the lie, isn't it? That we're alone. That doing what's right makes you isolated. But it doesn't. It just makes you visible. And when you're visible, people start to find you. One evening, I received a handwritten letter in my mailbox. No name. No return address. Just a note, scrawled in shaky handwriting. Because you didn't back down, my daughter didn't give up. I sat on the floor. Pressed the letter to my chest. And I wept. Not from fear this time. But from the weight of something sacred. This wasn't about me anymore. It never had been. It was about the ripple. The impact. The silent revolution of doing the right thing, even when no one claps for you. But there were still consequences. The firm placed me on unpaid leave. My keycard was disabled. Friends became distant. Even my landlord suddenly found a problem with my lease. I could see it happening. The unraveling. But I didn't feel panic. Because I remembered something Paul wrote while sitting in a prison cell. We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not abandoned. Struck down, but not destroyed. 2 Corinthians 4 verses 8-9. Those words weren't theory anymore. They were mine. One night, I sat on my rooftop, looking out over the city. The lights flickered. The sky was overcast. But the air was still. And I said it again. Not a request. Not even a declaration. Just a truth. God, let me see the depth of your unchanging love. Because I know now. You don't always rescue us from the storm. Sometimes. You just stand in it with us. And that is enough. The eviction notice came 2 days later. Typed, impersonal, taped to my door like a scarlet letter. Violation of lease agreement. No warning. No appeal. I stood in the hallway for a long time, just staring at it. Not angry. Not surprised. Just tired. It wasn't the first door to close. And I knew it wouldn't be the last. I packed slowly. One suitcase. One duffel bag. And my Bible. That was all I could carry anyway. I moved into a small room at a friend's church. An old Sunday school classroom with a cot and a single window facing the back alley. The heater barely worked. The lights flickered. But I could breathe. No eyes watching me. No men in suits passing by like wolves in prayer. Just space. Just silence. And God. Some nights, I lay awake asking questions he didn't answer. Why me? Why this way? Why does doing right cost so much? There were no thunderbolts. No burning bushes. Just peace. Slow. Gentle. Peace that didn't fix anything. But made the waiting bearable. I started writing letters. Not to anyone specific. Just writing. Pages and pages of things I never said out loud. Things like, I miss being invisible. But I'd rather be broken for truth than whole for lies. And God, If you're using this fire to make something new in me, don't stop. Even if it hurts. The church secretary noticed one day. She knocked softly on the door, holding a cup of tea and a sad little cookie wrapped in paper towel. "I read your note," she said, smiling shy. "You left it in the pew." I froze. "I'm sorry," I whispered, reaching for it. But she shook her head. "No. Don't be." It made me cry. In a good way. Sometimes we need someone to bleed truth out loud, so the rest of us remember we're not crazy. That night, she invited me to share a few words during the midweek prayer group. "Just something short," she said. 5 minutes. But 5 turned to 15. Then 20. I didn't read from notes. I didn't prepare. I just told the truth. About fear. About fire. About standing when your knees want to give out. About what Jesus really meant when he said, "Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake." I looked around the room, and they weren't blinking. Some were crying. Some just nodding quietly. Afterward, an older man approached me. Skin weathered. Eyes tired. He didn't say hello. Just this. "They made me lie on a witness stand once. I didn't even realize what I was doing until it was done. And I've never slept right since. Thank you. For telling the truth out loud." He pressed a folded $20 bill into my hand and walked away. It felt like holy ground. Small. Humble. But holy. That's the thing about obedience. It rarely looks heroic in the moment. It looks like tiny, trembling choices. Like saying yes when you're scared to death. The next few weeks passed in a blur of whispers and quiet miracles. I was offered a temporary position helping with legal aid for women fleeing domestic violence. Low pay. Zero prestige. But I said yes. They came in bruised, silent, shattered. I listened. Took notes. Held space. Sometimes, I prayed with them, softly, when they asked. "God, give her peace tonight. Let her feel safe for the first time in years." And I saw it. In the smallest ways. Justice. Not the kind that makes headlines. But the kind that mends bones. That teaches a woman to lift her chin again. And I realized something I hadn't seen before. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's just faithful. One evening, after everyone had gone home, I stayed late to finish a case summary. The office was quiet. The city outside hummed like a lullaby. And then, a knock. I looked up, confused. A woman stood in the doorway. Mid-40s. Red coat. Eyes sharp, mouth tight. She stepped in, slowly. "You're the one who leaked the footage," she said. Not a question. I didn't deny it. She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. Thick. Sealed. "I used to work at the firm too," she whispered. I couldn't speak then. But I can now. And I think this might help. Then she left. I didn't open it right away. I stared at it for a long time. Because I knew, whatever was inside could change everything. Or end everything. But I also knew something deeper. Whatever happens next, I'm not walking into it afraid. Because I have already walked through fire. And I didn't walk alone. I waited until morning. The envelope sat on my desk all night. Thick. Heavy. Like it was breathing. The sun rose pale through the dusty window. I made tea, sat down, and opened it. Dozens of pages. Printed emails. Bank statements. Memos with signatures I recognized. Proof. More than I had ever hoped for. Names. Dates. Bribes. Cover-ups. It was all there. And suddenly, the silence that had wrapped around me for weeks felt like something else entirely. Preparation. I didn't feel small anymore. I felt trusted. Trusted with truth. Trusted with risk. That afternoon, I walked the envelope to the same reporter I had met before. She didn't smile when I handed it over. But she exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for years. "This is going to burn the place down," she said. I didn't answer. Because I wasn't here to start a fire. I was here to tell the truth. A few days later, I got a call from the State Ethics Committee. Then the District Attorney's Office. Then the firm. They wanted to reopen the conversation. That's what they said. Reopen the conversation. Like we'd ever been having one. I didn't respond. Because some doors don't deserve to be knocked on again. Instead, I went to church that Sunday and sat quietly in the back. The pew was hard. The air smelled like old hymnals and dust. The pastor was reading from Isaiah. Learn to do right, seek justice. Defend the oppressed. Take up the cause of the fatherless. Plead the case of the widow. Isaiah 1 verse 17. He didn't shout. Didn't dramatize. Just read it like it was water. Clean. Cold. Necessary. And I cried. Right there, next to a woman I didn't know. With my head bowed and my hands trembling. Because justice wasn't just a job anymore. It was worship. It was obedience. It was love made visible. That week, the second article dropped. Bigger than the first. Names were named. The firm issued a statement. Then silence. And I watched the world shift, just a little. Just enough. One afternoon, I walked past a street vendor downtown. A small boy ran up to me, offering a wilted flower. "For you," he said, smiling wide. I knelt down, confused. "Why me?" I asked softly. He shrugged. "Dunno. You look like somebody who needs something pretty." I thanked him. Took the flower home. Put it in a glass of water by my bed. It didn't last long. But beauty never does. That's what makes it sacred. Later that night, I sat at my tiny desk in the church room and wrote one last letter. Not to a court. Not to the press. To him. God. I don't know what comes next. But I know you're already there. So I'll keep walking. Even if it's slow. Even if it hurts. Even if the road disappears beneath my feet. I'll keep walking. Because I finally believe. Your justice is worth everything. I signed it. Folded it. Slipped it between the pages of my Bible. A kind of covenant. Not for safety. Not even for victory. Just for truth. For the kind of righteousness that costs you something. Because that's the kind that transforms the world. One silent decision at a time. Sometimes, I still walk past that building. Not to check. Not to remember. Just to remind myself that I left, and that I never went back. The glass still shines. The suits still walk fast. The world moves on. But I'm not the same woman who walked through those doors years ago. Back then, I thought justice was something you chased in courtrooms. Now I know, it starts inside you. In quiet decisions no one claps for. In the stillness when you say, "No. I won't lie. I won't bend. I won't sell my soul to survive." I learned that the world won't always reward you for doing the right thing. Sometimes, it'll punish you. You'll lose jobs. Lose friends. Lose comfort. But you'll gain something else. A spine. A heart that doesn't flinch. And a kind of peace that no paycheck can buy. If you're listening to this right now, maybe you're standing at your own line. Maybe someone's asking you to look the other way. To play along. To be silent. And maybe it feels easier to give in. I understand that. I do. But I want you to hear me. Not as someone who figured it all out. But as someone who fell down, stood up, and kept walking. Don't compromise your soul to fit in a place God is trying to call you out of. You were made for more than survival. You were made to stand. Even when your knees shake. Even when your voice trembles. Stand. Because someone else is watching you. And your courage might be the permission they've been praying for. There's a verse I keep close now. I whisper it to myself when the night feels long and the world feels loud. It's Micah 6 verse 8. He has shown you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? But to act justly. To love mercy. And to walk humbly with your God. That's it. That's the life I'm building now. Not big. Not loud. But just. And merciful. And humble. Maybe that's all we're ever really called to be. So let me ask you, before I go. What would change in your life? If you stopped compromising? What would heal? If you stopped hiding? And what would this world become? If people like you, right where you are, started choosing justice. Not as a job, but as a way of life. Think about that. And when you're ready, stand. Thank you for staying with me until the end. If this story stirred something in you, if it reminded you of who you are, or who you're becoming, then I invite you to take one more step. Like. Share. Subscribe to this channel, Christ Word, where we speak not just about God, but with Him, through stories that meet you in the quiet places of your soul. And I want to hear from you. What should we talk about next? Is there a struggle you're facing? A scripture you can't let go of? A question you've been afraid to ask out loud? Leave a comment below. Let's make this more than a channel. Let's build a space where truth feels safe. Where faith feels real. Because you don't have to walk this road alone. So come back next week. We're just getting started. And until then, may the word of Christ dwell richly in you. May justice guide your steps. And may grace never be far behind. We'll talk soon.